It tasted like poison to me. It was just really, really wretched.
Do you know anything about how this is made? I told them how to make it.
Hey everybody, it's Mac McCormick again from Big Whiskey Rebellion, and today I'm with two women who are far smarter than I am. Why don't you guys introduce yourself?
I'm Allison. I am the head distiller at Reservoir Distillery.
And I'm Shelley Sackier. I'm the director of distillery education at Reservoir Distillery.
Well, you've done more than that. I mean, you've written books. Why don't you talk about that?
Yes, I'm also a person who works with words. I know how to put them on paper and somehow sell them to publishers who think that they are going to sell them to other people.
So your book about your journey into whiskey, what inspired that?
My very first experience with whiskey, which was absolutely god-awful. It was just a very, very bad introduction to brown spirits. It was just one of those moments where I thought, never gonna try that again. I had traveled to Scotland. We went to a beautiful distillery outside the west coast of Scotland, a place called Oban, and did the tour and finished off in the tasting room. And as one does, one's handed a small dram of what they tell you is the most beautiful elixir in the world, and how lucky are you? And I took one sip of this and I thought, I am not lucky. This is awful. It tasted like poison to me. It was just really, really wretched. And I announced that to everybody in the tasting room, and then was immediately ushered out because I was like, how would anybody be convinced to take a second sip of this? So that night, we were in this lovely, lovely hotel, and the barkeep there asked if we wanted a dram of whiskey while we were looking at the menu for dinner. And my soon-to-be husband said, don't waste your precious gold. She has absolutely no taste for it. She has an incredibly uneducated tongue. I said, I don't like it. Thank you very much. And he said, what did you have? And I told him, and I said it, tasted a little bit like it should have had a green Mr. Yuck sticker on the face of it. And he said, you started at the wrong end of the spectrum for this flavor profile. And he said, let me give you another. Let's see if I can't change your mind. And he gave me a beautiful dram of Glenkinchie. He said, this is from the lowlands of Scotland. It's referred to as a lady's malt, and at the time I was not offended. He said it's going to be filled with flowers and cheesecake and sort of perfumes and beautiful floral notes. And I said, you're making this sound like a marmalade cosmopolitan. Hand it over. And I took a sip and thought, this does not taste like turpentine.
Yeah.
And it was because of that bartender, because of that barkeep, that everything changed for me, because from that moment on, I wanted to know how somebody could get that flavor inside that glass in liquid form, because all I saw was everything from that country blossoming inside that glass.
Oh yeah.
It shifted my whole life, my whole career.
So I like Glenkinchie. I must have a lady's palate.
It's the Garden of Scotland, right?
So your husband wanted you to say chimchurri. That's what she wanted, I guess.
Well, he was the Rex Harrison, and I was definitely nowhere near to being the woman that he was hoping I would become. But that's fine. I became the woman I wanted to become.
So big question, do you like Oban now?
I do. I love all sorts of their expressions. It's beautiful. But, this bartender was right. There's a very specific introduction to certain flavor profiles, and I think a position that you hold like that is very powerful, right? So you can either steer people to become lifelong lovers of brown spirits, or any spirit, for that matter, or you can help them save money for their children's college education.
I usually just grab them by the back of the head and pour it down their throat. No, I think that our job as bartenders is to listen to you and what you like and guide you. And I find the problem with a lot of distillery tours is they just want you to like what they have. And that doesn't mean that it's the right thing for the person that's visiting. And if the person who was working at the distillery had asked you, they probably could have found something in their own collection that could have helped you appreciate it more. But instead, they just gave you the one that they wanted to give you.
That person was probably a fresh 21-year-old who was reading from a memorized script.
We all have to start somewhere. I mean, that's where she started.
Kind of, yeah.
So I want to hear about you. I think it's badass what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, so like I said, I'm the head distiller. I sort of fell into it a little bit accidentally. I was working in Richmond and happened to encounter Dave and Jay in just my regular life, and they worked right around the corner at Reservoir. They had set it up a few years previously, and just kind of started a relationship with them, and they came to a point where they were looking to expand and to hire, and asked if I wanted a job. And I had to think really hard. I don't know, a job in whiskey, that sounds really cool. Should I take it? But so I took it and haven't looked back since. That's seven plus years ago now. Definitely was a very large learning curve. I did not come from anything in the spirits or whiskey world to begin with. My background is in theater and music. So I'm either good at making whiskey or I'm just a really good actor. I don't know which. I'm still figuring it out. I mean, it's still a huge learning curve every day. I feel like every year, every season, we're learning something new or figuring something out, or just as the field progresses, there's always new ways to do things, new science that's discovered.
It's really cool. Is there anything that you guys are doing specifically now that's yours? Like the you said we should do this and you're doing it now?
Not necessarily product-wise, like a line or anything. We've talked about doing that in the past, and we just haven't quite gotten there. But certainly the process-wise, like I said, I'm always kind of trying to make things more efficient, to make things run better, to work with the different grains that we're using or the different yeasts and enzymes and stuff, just to make a better product. So in that aspect, certainly I would take ownership of pretty much all of the process.
So the nerdy stuff.
Yeah, the nerdy stuff.
I mean, that's the best part about like all of this. People always talk to me about how they think it'd be really cool to work here, and they're like, what's the best part about your job? And I'm like, I get to be a nerd and learn about all these things. I mean, I don't create any of these things. I just get to try them and fall in love with them and then kind of guide you to try them. I know you like peated whiskey. How peaty do you like your whiskey? I know that I helped secure a bottle for you with Dave a while back, but have you guys opened that?
Oh, I'm sure.
The 31-year single cask.
Oh, God, I'm sure it's gone.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That was such a rare bottle. It's the oldest single barrel that Highland Park ever did.
There are people who save whiskeys.
Yes.
For like that 25th wedding anniversary, or like the birth of their first child, or when they finally win the lottery. And Dave and I are more of the type of people who find reasons to celebrate every Friday.
Nice.
But I mean, we made it through the week, right? I mean, or just we have wonderful people coming that we want to share our whiskey with. So we are not people who save our whiskeys. We're people who share our whiskeys, and it's very hard to keep a bottle closed when you know that it has a story to tell, and it has secrets to give, and it has memories to make.
So I'm a weird drinker myself, like because of what I do with all of this every day and how many people come to the restaurants every day. I actually do not want people at my house. It's just like so unrelaxing to me to have, because my job is entirely social and I just relish my time at home. And I also don't drink very much. So I have a personal rule that I only have 3 open bottles at a time, and I have to finish a bottle before I'm allowed to open another bottle. And I usually have a bourbon and a scotch and either an Armagnac or a cognac open at any given time. And then the few times I get to drink, I drink one of those, and I can't open something else until I finish one. Actually, I have a kind of a baller bottle open right now. I have a Macallan 30 that I bought for myself on my 30th birthday. And I just probably like 6 months ago was like, I should really enjoy this because I haven't opened it yet.
I hope you do enjoy that Macallan.
What do you think about Highland Park?
Oh, I love Highland Park. I think it's fantastic. There are just so many fantastic expressions that particular distillery has as well.
So I always try to pick something for somebody to try. Have you ever had their 18 year?
I have a bottle of that at home.
I'm trying to think of what, I just love the 18. How about so I have one that you might not have, and they don't make it anymore. I want to give you something that maybe you haven't had.
Great. Good luck.
So we have 3 different Highland Parks here. I'm sure you've had the 18.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Have you had the cask strength?
I have. Mm-hmm.
And then have you seen this?
No, I have not.
This is a sherry cask one.
Oh, lovely.
They stopped making it 6 years ago.
Okay.
The beauty of being in business for decades is I'm a hoarder and a nerd, and I stash stuff. And this is actually one of my favorite whiskeys. I think Highland Park is kind of one of those distilleries that's overlooked a lot. And it is funny because it's the same company as Macallan. but they are still small. The Orkney Islands create a very minerally content to their whiskey that I just think it's unrivaled. But you get to drink that, and I get to hear more from her. Tell me something I probably should know about distilling that I don't know.
Well, that's a tough one, because I feel like you do know a lot.
I don't know that much. I'm just a pretty face.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions that, and this is not necessarily on the nerdy side, but it is a lot of hard work. It's, distilling sounds like this very cool, exotic thing, and it is. And the final product speaks for how cool it is. But in the day-to-day, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of heavy lifting. It's a lot of dust and dirt and getting really gross and getting greasy when you have to fix the different machines.
I was going to say, I've never seen you so shiny.
I know.
Actually, every time I've ever seen her, she's completely covered in sweat and she's got char stuff all over her arms. And
so I think that it certainly, people have this sort of glorified idea of what it is, and it's a very down and dirty manual labor job. If it's not the automated 3 people.
I was just going to say, which is one of the things that's so great about Reservoir is it's still hands-on for absolutely every stage.
Very hands-on. The biggest question that you get from people coming through is the silly, how can it be bourbon if it's not made in Kentucky? So that's always a fun conversation to have. I think also, not nerdy at all, but I do love getting the question too if I'm in the tasting room or, with some people that me being a female and standing there talking to them, they'll say, do you know anything about how this is made? Or, have they told you how they make it? I'm like, well, no, I told them how to make it. That's always a really fun conversation to have.
so when you're out drinking, and I know I've served you before, but what's your favorite thing to drink?
Reservoir, obviously. I'm sort of, I think, on the opposite end of the spectrum from Shelley. I don't tend to care so much for the scotches and the single malts, but I certainly prefer bourbons or ryes. I do, in sort of the general whiskey that I like to have at home. I always have like a Maker's Mark for sure. Blanton's when I can find it. But my biggest thing too is that I always want to try something different, something new, So whenever I travel, similar to Shelley, but like I said, kind of on a different side of the sphere, I'm always, if there's a distillery around, I'm gonna be there just trying it. And I usually try to take home a bottle of something from there just to kind of have.
Do you want to try something that I've been kind of hyped on lately that I think is pretty interesting?
Sure, yeah.
It's not an expensive whiskey. Hers is rare and hard to get, and I'm about to give you something that anybody can buy, which
Crown Peach?
It is Crown Peach. I love Crown Peach. So the Wyoming whiskey, have you had this stuff
I have
yet?
not had it, but I have heard of it, yeah.
It is shockingly delicious. I was kind of caught off guard because, there's a bit of arrogance that comes in and being a bartender in this sometimes that I have to let go of. And I still find myself judging products before I ever taste it just by either the branding or the packaging or the state that it's going to come from. I try to go in blind on all of this stuff and let go, but I just was like, Wyoming, what a weird place to be making whiskey. And I tasted it, and this is just their bottom level product, so it's not the best expression, but this is all we can get in Virginia. But I've had some of their other stuff and it's phenomenal. And it just blows me away. I don't know how they're doing it, but for such a young distillery, they're creating some really nice product. It's really good, isn't it?
That is very,
it's
very
kind of
nice.
like cookie-ish. I like it.
It's got a nice sweetness to it. Very smooth.
Yeah.
Super smooth.
This is, I don't think it says what kind of sherry, it just says sherry.
It has that sort of slight nuttiness to it. I'm a big fan. I think it tastes fantastic.
This was one of my favorites when it was available. And when I found out they were discontinuing, I was like, no, and I only have 6 bottles left. Well, I think that we're doing good. Are you enjoying the whiskey?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.